Laws affecting what you can set the thermostat at, trying to save energy. This is not a new thing. In fact, multiple countries have adopted laws or mandates saying what you can and can't set the thermostat at, trying to save energy. First, I want to say before we dive into all of this, this is not a political video. I'm not saying that whether you're on this side or that side, what's right or wrong. I just want to go over a few of these laws and mandates and also make a bold prediction at the end of this video. Multiple countries have adopted different laws or mandates, including Spain, the UK, Italy, and Greece, just to name a few. And most recently, Spain came out with some mandates that they're basically saying in public places, the thermostat cannot be set below 27 degrees Celsius. So it has to be set at or above 27 degrees Celsius. Now, if you don't know Celsius and you're not sure what that means, you might be saying, well, setting the thermostat at a certain temperature is a good thing. Let's save some energy. But just to put that in perspective, here in the US, we use Fahrenheit, and that's like setting your thermostat at 80 degrees Fahrenheit or above. So you might say, well, 80 degrees is pretty warm in my opinion. If you were to go to, say, Walmart or Target, if you're going out to get your groceries and the temperature in there were 80 degrees, me being a chubby guy, I could just tell you, once I pick up a few items, it'll be time for me to go home because I am going to be sweating at 80 degrees or above. This mandate they just passed here recently. They've also said that they're mandating that all public buildings in its country to make sure that the doors of the buildings remain closed the majority of the time. That's kind of a no-brainer, especially if they are in the middle of a heat wave. Sometimes you think things are a no-brainer and you find out that they're not. Apparently, Spain and Europe in general has been under a little bit of a crunch when it comes to energy. A recent heat wave has affected the majority of European countries experiencing intense heat in the current weather. So they're implementing these ways of conserving energy, and this being one of them. So the Prime Minister of Spain also said that he encourages office workers to remove their ties in order to help them remain cool without the assistance of artificial means. Honestly, in the grand scheme of things, this isn't necessarily a laughing matter. When you read things like that, it's kind of funny. In a press conference last week, he said, "I've asked the ministers in public and private sector bosses not to wear ties unless it's necessary. The decree mandates that public places, including train stations, bars, offices, theaters, shops, and airports regulate their air conditioning. The regulations stipulate that the interior temperature of heated spaces must be kept at below 19 degrees Celsius, which is about 66 degrees Fahrenheit during the winter months. And this will continue to be enforced at least until November 2023. So they're saying at least until the end of next year that they are going to be mandating these things. We're going to talk about at the end of this video, but this is actually when they're talking about enforcing these mandates, what will that look like? Furthermore, the decree is being implemented throughout all of Spain's households in the form of a recommendation. So they're not enforcing it in your own home, but I know a lot of Americans, including myself, I like to keep a pretty cool house in the summertime. And this comes on the heels of just this past year, a city council demanded that landlords turn up their thermostats, eliminating the need for dangerous heaters. What they're talking about here is where landlords are in control of what the temperature will be set at. We're going to talk about a couple different places and articles that touch on this. So the City Council of New York recently came out with a bill that was introduced to make landlords have to raise the minimum temperature in the apartment buildings, eliminating the need for dangerous space heaters. This is more for safety. This is another local government entity setting standards, telling landlords, hey, you need to keep these public places above a certain temperature. City law requires that from October to May, landlords heat multifamily buildings to at least 68 degrees, which to be honest with you is pretty cold. I know I like it to be that cool when I'm sleeping at night. We'll sometimes turn our thermostat down between 68 and 70 degrees, depending on the time of the year. But for some folks, that would be pretty cool. But this says multifamily buildings to at least 68 degrees during the day and 62 at night. So that's even cooler. The bill would bump those temperatures to 70 and 66. So I think what's probably happening is folks are plugging in space heaters because they're too cold. I used to work for a company years ago that we had these buildings that would have these bulbs. There's sensing bulbs. They would sense the temperature and tell the boiler to heat up a little bit better. The problem with that is if they go plugging in a space heater, and never mind the safety aspect of space heaters and all of that, but when you plug in a space heater and now you're warming up the space even further, well, that then tells the temperature bulb that, hey, it's warm in here, you don't need to run. Then it becomes a domino effect where the space heaters are actually making the main heat not turn on as much as it would have before. So what do you do if you're one of those tenants? I'm not telling you to do this, but we had tenants at this company I used to work for. They would put ice on the temperature bulb, making the heat turn on, and then they wouldn't need a space heater. And in addition to that, the state that I live in, Virginia, also passed a code that says at least one movable thermometer shall be made available in each building for measuring temperatures in individual rooms that do not have a fixed thermostat that shows the temperature in the room. I can tell you this building that was managed by this company that I worked for years ago, that sounds like that would not be a go today with current codes. Heat shall be supplied from a central heating plant or an electrical heating system in accordance with the Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code, provided their installation or operation has been approved by the state or local building or fire authorities, but not limited to wood-burning stoves, coal-burning stoves, and oil heaters or portable heating units, either vented or unvented, may be used only to provide or supplement heat in the event of a power failure or similar emergency. These appliances shall be used in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. A temperature of at least 72 degrees, 72, so that's pretty warm, that's room temperature, shall be maintained in all areas used by residents during hours when the residents are normally awake. During night hours, when residents are asleep, a temperature of at least 68 degrees shall be maintained. So I feel like they're being a little more realistic here in Virginia. The standard applies unless otherwise mandated by federal or state authorities. And then this code goes on to say that in cooling, the facility shall provide in all buildings an air conditioning system for all areas used by residents, including residents' bedrooms and common areas. Temperatures in all areas used by the residents shall not exceed 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, that's pretty hot. I can tell you 80 degrees. I'm usually trying to find the thermostat. A friend of mine, he always picks on me because if we go somewhere in public and the thermostat is set above 75 degrees, I'm usually looking around trying to find the thermostat. The exception to this is the facility may allow the temperature in a bedroom in which only one resident resides, which has a thermostat in the room, to be controlled by the resident as long as the temperature does not endanger the health, safety, or welfare of the resident. Any electric fan shall be screened and placed for the protection of the residents. That's a code. I believe this is for assisted living facilities, but it's still interesting. There is still a code in place. Obviously, somebody was breaking these rules. Somebody was setting that temperature way too high or too low, and one bad apple ruins it for everybody, right? They were making it unbelievably uncomfortable to where they had to put some common sense codes in place or laws to say, hey, you need to keep it at least this temperature. And then finally, just a couple years ago, a federal program said you should keep your home at 78 degrees. Federal program recommends people keep their homes between 78 and 85 degrees, and the internet is freaking out. The guidelines come from Energy Star, a government-backed program to promote energy efficiency, and they've sparked a fiery debate on social media. Programs suggest different settings to automate at various times: 78 degrees when you wake up, 85 degrees during the day, and 82 degrees when you're sleeping. There's another story where they came out and basically said the optimal temperature when you're sleeping should be 82 degrees. Now, I don't know about you, but 82 degrees would be a little warm if I'm trying to sleep. We will a lot of times turn our thermostat down lower at night than what we would keep it during the day. Energy Star, a joint federal program run by the Department of Energy and the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, recommends that for optimal cooling and energy efficiency, the coolest temperature consumers should keep their homes set to is 78 degrees. And that's only when they're at home and awake. When consumers are out of the home, Energy Star recommends that you keep your thermostat set at 85 degrees and suggests 82 degrees Fahrenheit as the optimal temperature for sleeping. It continues to go on and talk about sleep experts and sleep studies they've done. It says Energy Star says homeowners can save about $180 a year for properly set programmable thermostat. It also recommends homeowners to keep their thermostats at 78 degrees when they're home, etc., etc. So here's the thing. I would just ask you, someone watching this video, where are you at with this? I can tell you that my bold prediction will be there will come a day in the future when they are going to make laws. In fact, I think it might be sooner than later, probably probably in the next decade or two, they're going to start out probably saying in public places here in the US, temperatures have to be set at least a certain temperature to save energy. When you go to a public place, you're going to be finding that it's going to be a little bit warmer. I'm reminded of we've stayed at hotels down in Virginia Beach is one I can remember off the top of my head. You would walk out of your hotel room where you were keeping it nice and cool and walk out into the hallway, and either they had it turned off entirely or set pretty high in there. It was just ridiculously hot and humid. I'm not going to name names. I mean, they very well could have changed that policy after I stayed there. I can tell you that, especially if I'm paying good money, if I'm paying a premium rate for a hotel room and there are things like that going on where it's obvious that they're trying to save money, but in addition to that, creating circumstances such as high humidity and high temperature in public areas where mold could grow, it would inhibit me from wanting to stay there again. So what are your thoughts? I think that that's certainly possible, especially if they're seeing it be done in other countries. And the other thing that I'm curious about is, how are they going to enforce it? So if you do go to a public place and you find that it's breaking this rule, that it's actually kind of comfortable in here while I'm eating my dinner in this public restaurant, well, what are they going to do about that? Are they going to fine that restaurant? Are they going to get even crazier and make it a crime? It'll be interesting to see how that all works too. I don't think it's that far out of the possibility that they could introduce bills to crack down on energy and trying to save energy and such. We're already seeing bills that are being passed right now where they're regulating products that can be sold. I definitely think that's a possibility. Let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below. I appreciate you watching. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.